By the pricking of my thumbs, something witchy this way comes. Ill winds mark its fearsome flight, and autumn branches creak with fright. The landscape turns to ashen crumbs when something witchy this way comes. Crystal water turns to dark where'er its presence leave its mark, and boiling currents pound like drums when something witchy this way comes. A presence dark invades the fair and gives the horses ample scare, for chaos reigns and panic numbs when something witchy this way comes.
Good evening, everybody. This is Onyx Moon, and you are listening to Something Witchy. I'm glad you came by tonight and are joining us here because I've got a wonderful special guest. I'm sitting here with Lady Stars and Fire, who is another one of our wonderful hosts here on PBN Radio, and she's got a great show on Thursday nights called Getting Familiar. And I have to tell you, I love this show because she talks about things that are important to me, and she ties them into animals and some of my favorite subjects. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to listen and to meet her, so you can start listening to her show. So without further ado, I'm going to say hello, Lady Stars and Fire. How are you tonight?
I am wonderful. How are you tonight, Onyx?
I am doing great, and I'm so glad we finally got hooked up and got you on this show. We've been trying to do this for a while, folks, but, schedules being what they are, it gets a little cuckoo. Yeah, it's crazy. So, since I know you and I love you dearly, tell the listeners about you. Tell them what you do, and let's get them to get to know you.
All right. I am Lady Stars and Fire. And to be short, I am studying shamanism. I have already finished my first level of shamanism, but I am still studying basically 2, 3, and 4 because I am hoping to become a teacher in shamanism by the time I'm done. I'm wanting to move into soul healing and stuff by the time I'm done with all of my classes. But I am a clairvoyant, empath, and I'm intuitive, just pretty much like anybody else who's, when we're starting to come into our gifts, we start to learn what it is we're intuitive about and what it is we can do. But I love the animals. The animals have been with me ever since I can remember. And as I've moved into shamanism, as well as Reiki healing and everything else, I've found that the animals always somehow to connect you with spirit. Whether you're doing meditation, whether you're doing shamanic journeys, whether it's dreams or actually in the physical world, somehow spirit knows that is a communication that you can learn and get messages from, if you know how.
Very cool.
And then I work with that.
That is so cool.
What do you want to talk about?
I love the shamanism. I think that's great. That it's something that has been kind of dear to my heart. Just because some of the ways that shaman look at life, the way they look at nature, the way they do that kind of thing has always been, that's kind of like in the back of my brain. I think that's a great thing. And like you said, with the animals, and yes, we are all kind of empathetic. We're all kind of coming into our gifts, and that's where you start. But it's really great to take it from there a bit too. So kudos. Good luck on those studies, and you'll definitely have to keep us posted on that.
Well, and I think a big part of it all is, just like you said, we all come into our empathicness as we grow into our gifts. And the animals are way, way more empathic than we are. They always know more than we do. And they can sense it on us. They can sense when it's okay to communicate with us and when to be sketchy.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're much better at it than we are. And communicating with them, I mean, when you are a true empath, you are able to find a way to actually communicate. It's like unspoken words, but it's like you could still communicate.
Absolutely. And animals have always been that way. I mean, I've had animals throughout my whole life, and some were more familiar than others, and I know you know what I mean by that.
Exactly.
But I mean, even right now, I've got a plethora of cats, and I've got a dog, and whatever. The dog's kind of stupid, but the cats are pretty cool. I love my dog. Don't get me wrong, but he's just not all together. But I've got the one cat that if I'm down in the dumps, or if I'm feeling low, or if I'm in a bad mood, and I happen to be sitting in a room that she's in, it's like she knows, and she'll come over, and and she's not like, how do I put it? She's not the most affectionate cat in the world. I mean, it's like it's on her terms, typical cat.
Oh, absolutely.
But she knows intuitively, I know she knows when I need some unconditional love. And she will come and get on my lap and do mashed potatoes and, communicate. And then, she's just so good about that. And then I've got this other cat that's a male cat, and he's much more, how do I say this? He's an ass. He really is. But he is just so, he will come and get right in your face, and then he will touch you with his paws. I mean, he will touch your face. He will touch you all over, and it's like he's like, you've seen that meme on Facebook where it's the shaman kitty, or not a meme, I think it's a video where they say shaman kitty heals kittens. And the cat just stands up on his hind legs, and he's doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and he's like all moving back and
Yes,
forth, and
yes.
he's a white cat. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're
that's
talking about.
funny.
I love that.
But that's what one of my cats kind of does. I mean, but he does that, and just touching your face and your head and whatever, and then he's got to rub on you and stuff like that. But again, it's usually if something's starting to, if somebody's frosted my cookies or whatever, and I'm kind of in one of those moods, that's when he comes around. And if he doesn't get enough attention or get you distracted, occasionally he'll put some claws in it. I mean, he doesn't like scratch, but I mean, it's like he'll let me know that the claws are there. So it gets my attention. So it's really cool.
Oh, no, I absolutely understand. Because I have two cats of my own, and I say all the time, Yankee, for anybody who does follow me on Facebook, they've seen pictures of Yankee, and Yankee is my big gray cat. And he, by far, would be my familiar. He would be the all-knowing one who chooses, do I wish to help you today, or, no, I'm sleeping, forget it.
Right.
Basically, that's exactly how it is. He's like, come over, and especially like when I'm doing my weekly room cast or something, he'll just come over and knock him over, and he's like, no, dummy, this is what you want.
Right.
Or he'll lay down, and he's like, we're not doing this now, I want attention. But Doodle, on the other hand, Doodle, I love Doodle, but Doodle's an idiot. Doodle is like a child, and he just reminds me of a child looking up at their parents like, will you just love me and help me and everything for me? But there's definitely a major difference when you're dealing with your animals, your pets, the ones that you love that live with you all the time, versus like in the wild and you come across them.
Yes.
Especially when you're getting medicine from them in the wild. Now, sometimes, though, that can be hard to understand, especially because that's what I deal with people all the time when they're talking about, when I'm explaining to people about, maybe you're getting messages from in the physical world, and it's animals that cross your path. And I remind them all the time, I'm like, typically, unless it's your familiar, and it's an animal that crossed your path, it's got to be an odd animal. It can't be something you see every day, because Spirit already knows you see it every day, therefore it's not going to use that animal, such as maybe a squirrel that you see all the time around your woods. They're not going to use that as information to kind of give you help or guidance or healing or even power because you see them every day. It's got to be something out of the ordinary that you don't normally see pop up, maybe a stump or something.
Right.
And there's definitely a difference, and knowing when and where to notice that difference is key, especially. I tell people all the time, you've got to know the differences versus your pets. Your pets are going to love you, and they may be able to give you help in some ways, but when Spirit kind of interacted and made that happen with synchronicity, that's a whole different story. And that's part of that whole shamanic thing. I think that's part of what maybe it is you like. Because Shamans are taught to learn to live, to see with our heart.
Yes.
To kind of drop the logic.
Right.
Just drop the logic and let's start to live through our heart. And we start to see the world in a whole different way, which makes everything different.
Yeah. Now I have animals that recur. I have recurring animals. Owl. We've got an owl, and he's not here all the time, but frequently. And again, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in, or if I'm in a contemplative mood, or I'm sitting out back at night. And we've got this big old barn owl that will just come get in a tree, and it will talk until it gets my attention. And then sometimes, and then occasionally I've got another recurring animal that comes to me frequently, is red-tailed hawk.
Okay.
And it's strange times and strange places. It's not always the same. I know we have a mating pair in the yard next door, and they will come down, but they'll come just sit on the fence and look at me, and and when my dog's out, they just look at the dog like, "Are you stupid? Don't bark at me." And he doesn't. The owl he tends to bark at, but the owl just talks, whatever. But it just depends, and I've noticed that throughout my life there are certain kinds of situations that tend to occur around one of those visits. And so I don't mean it's not foretelling, but frequently, when owl comes to me or when hawk comes to me, there's something specific that I have learned that I need to pay attention to.
Right,
Just
exactly.
over time. And those, I would say, if I had like a totem or a spirit animal, it would be those two. But that's just what I'm familiar with and the way they come to me. But I also pay attention to, like you said, things that are out of the ordinary. Like around where I live in Florida. So lizards are not out of the ordinary.
Right, like
But
a gecko.
yes, but sometimes their behavior is. So if they're acting in
absolutely.
a manner that is not consistent with their normal behavior, even if it's something I see every day, if that behavior is inconsistent, then I pay attention.
Exactly, and that makes perfect sense. Because, like I was saying before, if it's something you see every day, typically you kind of know and avoid it because you do see it every day. But if it's something, like you're saying, that is completely drawing your attention by the odd rarity of how it's acting, then that makes complete sense of why it's doing it and according to synchronicity, because
Right.
that helps you notice, hey, whatever this information is that this animal has, now is the time to actually pay attention to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because that's when they're trying to, to me, it's like somebody waving a flag at you. It's like when they're trying to get your attention, and when you learn to pay attention, because some people get so distracted. Technology is a wonderful thing, but everybody's on their phones, and you're not paying attention when you're sitting out by nature. And that's something, that I tell people, it's that funny thing, take time to smell the roses. Well, take time to watch the critters because you just don't know what you're going to see. And and animals, the wisdom that you get if you open to that, and people think, oh, well, I sit outside, see animals all the time, but they never talk to me. Well, duh.
That's because they don't know how to listen.
Because exactly, they don't know how to listen. And if you're not opening to that, and believe me, for me anyway, it's not a full-on conversation. I'm not like Dr. Doolittle sitting there chatting with the squirrel. But you get, you may get a picture, or you may get a smell, or you may get a thought that just seems completely random. But that's telling you something. So, those are the kind of things that, in my experience, that they give me. It could be, somebody that you haven't thought of in a year pops into your mind after watching, a lizard spin on his head. That's kind of far-fetched, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I know completely what you mean. One of those situations, like you said, with reoccurring animals that I have, I get slugs that come in when it's time for me to, like, my energy is heightening or
Right.
I'm going through what I go through. I call it an upgrade. I'm like it's like you're leveling up like a video game. I'm like when you finally started to learn something and it's time to kind of move up to that next level, and the teaching is beginning. Is when slugs pop up. I just start seeing them on the wall everywhere I go. I'm like, and they start popping up, and I'm like, okay, it's time to really meditate and pay attention and slow down because I have new information coming in, as well as that means I'm going to be extra sensitive. I'm going to start feeling a lot more stuff emotionally, and under that empath energy, I'm going to be picking up more. When I see them, I know these things are popping up in my life.
Right.
And however, I also have a skunk. I have a skunk that lives in my sanctuary. It's my little outside comfortable place. It's like my place with nature. And I have a lot of stray animals that come. And a skunk has been with me. A couple of them have been in that sanctuary living for a long time. Some come and go along with cats and raccoons. But I know I don't see them all the time. But I know all of a sudden, typically, almost every time, I end up having to smell skunk. It's also when I have been at a point where I am basically making people smell my aroma in a way that I shouldn't be. I'm like starting to act a little bit higher than I should, maybe boasting a little bit more than I should. And it's kind of like their way of going, all right now.
Take it down a notch.
Down.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, little things. It's just like you said. It's little things. Sometimes you don't even see them. Sometimes it's the smell.
Right.
Sometimes it's the way they're acting. I mean, they can tell you so very much. And I love to use the physical world all the time because I'm like, it happens all the time. But a lot of times we're just looking to the left off in our own private world, and we don't notice that anything is being said to us.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, and if you don't pay attention, I mean, because, I mean, it happens, but typically they're not going to come tap you on the shoulder. Okay, because the whole point is universe and spirit, they want you to be paying attention, so they're not going to knock you in the head to get you to pay attention. Now,
no, exactly. They want your help. They want to help you.
Well, yes, but you've got to be open to that because, they're not going to waste their time on somebody that is not giving them the time of day. I mean, it's kind of like, well, okay, we're going to do this, and if they notice, then they're paying attention. And if they don't notice, okay, well, we'll try again another day. Because things do, and it's funny how, okay, I know this is going to sound a little bit odd, but it's funny how the animal world, the nature world, the physical world, actually some of the behaviors are very similar for me on how I work with the spirit realm. It's very, very similar. Yeah. It's very...
Absolutely, they collide, and most people don't realize that they are colliding at all times because they don't see the actual collision of it.
Right. Exactly, and that's what I think too. Is because the way spirits communicate with me, or the way I communicate with spirits and stuff like that, is very, very similar to how I communicate or get communication from. I guess I shouldn't say I communicate with the animals because it's because I've learned to, as part of my gift, I've learned to recognize when it is something that I need to be paying attention to. It's called, I kind of grew up with it, it's called never spoil a good notion. Something will pop into my head, and I pay attention. It's like if I'm driving down the road and I think, oh, maybe I should turn right. You know what? I'm going to turn right. I may not know why I'm turning right, but if somebody tells me maybe I should turn right, I do. I can tell you I've avoided accident scenes and things like that by not being where I was supposed to be.
No,
because
exactly.
I took a different direction.
Understand.
Yeah, and that's the spirit part of me, but the animal things too,
But that's the thing. The animals can be part of that. See,
yes.
I was doing something with my personal shamanic class, not too long ago, we had basically we had an assignment to do, and we were meant to ask a question. And I'm going to walk you through it because it's pretty much exactly what you were saying. But like I said, with the shamanic side of things, we work with the nature world and the animals, and we learn to listen to our heart. And the thing is you were meant to ask a question, and you're meant to come back with a divining answer, receiving that information from them. And sometimes you just have to throw out that logic, and you have to go with what your heart is. So I asked the question to the universe, and I sat down, and I'm like, okay, I've asked. Now I'm just going to sit here and see if I feel like I'm being given any information, or wait until that feeling comes to me. And I noticed, sitting down, right after I sat down, I saw this itty bitty inchworm. And the inchworm just happened to be floating in the air on what looked like it was leftover of one itty bitty string hanging off of a tree of what would have been a spider web that was left behind. But somehow that itty bitty inchworm was enough to get my attention. And so I was like, all right, well, maybe this has something to do with it. And so I walked over to the inchworm where it was hanging to verify, yeah, I am seeing this and I'm not making it up. And as I'm looking, I look down, and the very next thing that I see on the ground directly below the inchworm that's floating in the air is a rock that happened to look like it was pointing in a direction. So I laughed and I said, all right, well, let's go with this. I walked in the direction of where the rock was saying. As I'm walking in that direction, a fox comes around the corner. Now, automatically, being the person I am, I start to go, well, what does fox mean? Maybe I'm supposed to be understanding what fox means because now foxes come up. But then I realized, no, I'm listening to logic. Let me turn off my brain and listen to my heart. There's a fox there for a reason. And where I live, I'm not the only one who feeds the animals. The fox bends over, and he takes a bite out of what is like the bowl that neighbor feeds food in. But he runs off with the bowl. And I was like, exactly, he's running down the road with the bowl. And I look up at the sky because in my way, that's just my way of communicating with the universe. I'm like, funny. So now I'm running down the road behind this fox because I'm like, apparently I'm supposed to follow the fox. And he goes up a hill. And so here I am trying to go up a hill. I'm running out of breath. And I'm like, really? You got to make me work for this. And I'm walking up the hill, and I know it's going into a cul-de-sac. Fox has now disappeared into the woods. And at this point, I was like, yeah, that was funny. But I noticed where I stopped and I gave up. I stopped and I looked down, and right between my legs, on the ground, happened to have been what was like a bank bag that somehow somebody had thrown out or lost, or I don't know. But the bank bag said liberty. And that was my answer, because it was going to bring me that liberation that I needed, the answer was. So I had to chase this fox to get to this bank bag that said liberty. I couldn't help but to laugh. And, of course, at that point, a bird flies over my head. And I was like, okay, I get it, all right. And I start walking back. And I never saw a fox again. But if I didn't follow my heart and I didn't run after this fox, I would have never found that information that Spirit was giving me. So you are communicating with the animals in a different way.
Yep.
Because it's like they're putting you guys in each other's path to try to communicate to get that divine answer. But you have to be aware and how to go about getting that divine answer, which can be difficult.
Okay,
because you question yourself.
Yeah, so now we have to chase foxes to cul-de-sacs. That is such a cute story. I absolutely love that. I'm dying here. Okay, so on that note, so I don't laugh too loud into this microphone, we're going to pause here for a second and take our first commercial break. So we'll be right back in just a minute with more of Lady Stars and Fire.
Since 2014, the Pagan Business Network has been building resources by bringing together pagan-owned and pagan-friendly businesses. With multiple resources available, it doesn't matter if you're an artisan, musician, vendor, author, publishing company, blogger, podcaster, event planner, or any other organization. We have the resources here to help you succeed. Becoming a member is easy and affordable, even for the smallest of budgets. With your membership, you will get Business Spotlight, which is an article written in an interview style, complete with details and photos. Social media sharing through the Pagan Business Network. A blog roll. A membership card for discounts at participating businesses. You'll also get discounts on tickets to all Pagan Business Network events, and so much more. You can check us out at paganbusinessnetwork.com for more information.
Hey everybody, ever find yourself having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what it is that your power animals, your spirit guides are telling you while you're having your shamanic journeys? Or maybe you're meditating? Or maybe you're just seeing some weird, odd animals in your life? Either way, maybe I can help you out with that just a little bit. Check in with me each week on Thursdays at 8 p.m. with Getting Familiar. I'm Lady Stars and Fire, and we'll be discussing everything spiritual, animal related. Until now, to then, take care of you. Hugs and kisses in the wind, everybody. Bye.
All right, we're back. I got to tell you, that was probably the best shamanic journey story I have ever heard. I absolutely love that. I can imagine. I can only imagine that you would be out of breath after that. But that is so cool. I mean, and that's another, exactly what I was talking about was, they're not going to knock you in the head, because it could have ended right there, like you said, if you'd started thinking, okay, Fox, what is Fox? And then just let him run off. But the fact that you said, I love the way you put that, throw your brain out the window and follow your heart. And
yeah,
that's
you have to surrender to heart and soul. And if you don't, then it's hard, because you don't know when to listen to logic and when to listen to heart. But heart is always right. We just forget that.
Absolutely. And but then again, some of us, that's part of the journey that we're making, as far as when people are coming into their powers and into their craft, they're learning how to listen to, soul, spirit, heart, universe, and pay attention. So it's not as easy for everybody at the beginning, because honestly, there's been many times, I'm sure, in everybody's life where you've followed your heart and had it trampled on. That's not the same thing as what we're saying here. You're following your heart for spirit, and that's a big different thing than listening to your heart because this guy or this girl or whoever's making eyes at you, and all of a sudden your heart's racing. That's not the same thing. We're not talking about infatuation and attraction and following your heart, because that's where people get in trouble. We're talking about opening to spirit, opening to goddess, opening to universe, however it is that you term it in your path, and finding a way to let them communicate with you through the natural world. And it doesn't always, okay, I'm going to interject, it doesn't always have to be furry critters.
Oh, no, by far not at all.
Dragon, now, okay, there's a few things that I don't care if they're trying to talk to me. Mosquitoes, sorry, no. Roaches, no. Sorry, you just need to die. I'm sorry. But and I'm petrified of spiders, but I have learned grandma spider wisdom. I have made myself learn that, and I do not actively seek and destroy spiders. In fact, I've had lots of times where spiders were there for protection. And I have learned to get over my arachnophobia, which is pretty bad because I have almost wrecked cars.
No, I've been the same way. I understand.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've always appreciated their web, as long as I'm not the one walking into it.
Yeah.
I have always...
You learn how to do like a kung fu fighter, all of a sudden it'll web. You're like, ah!
Yeah, and naked, because the clothes are coming off. Because if that spider's on my clothes, I'm going to just die right there. My grandmother was the kind of woman that would, as we would drive to wherever, she's the kind that would pull off to the side of the road in a wooded area and go traipsing through the woods looking for something. And I would have to follow her, or, we'd all go traipsing through the woods, because that's what the heck we did, witchy people, whatever. And I walked into a banana spider web. And the dang thing was on like the front. I mean, I'm like 11, okay, so I have no chest. But the dang thing was on my chest, and I swear to you, I literally almost ripped the shirt off of me to get the stuff off and screaming. You know, I probably had a little training bra on, so I'm running back to the car with my shirt on the ground, still screaming, and, you know, half naked running out of the woods. Luckily, we're kind of in the boondocks where that was at, so there wasn't a lot of people driving down the road, like pointing their fingers and laughing, but
or wrecking over it.
yeah, wrecking, yeah, you know, or calling 911 or anything. It was just, you know, it was kind of crazy, but yeah, but it took me a long time to get over the spider issue. And but now I do. When I see them doing certain things or see webs certain ways, that kind of thing, I absolutely can stop and appreciate them and pay attention and see if I'm getting any kind of a message.
Oh, yes.
But frequently, no. Spiders are just like, okay, yeah, no. Just move on. Move on.
Well, there are those animals that nobody really wants to talk to. I mean, there are those that you're like, you really don't want to really, you don't want anything to do with. I'm not comfortable with you. No. Thank you, but no thank you. You know, kind of thing. But sometimes those animals are the ones, well, anything that is a living creature that is not a human being, pretty much I consider an animal. I don't go into, you know, whether you live in the water or whatever.
Right.
I look at them all as animals.
Right.
But sometimes those are the ones that have some of the deepest information that you need to learn, and it's hard. Okay, and some of them are cute ones too. I had a girlfriend one time who she eventually mentioned to me that she had been seeing like ladybugs all the time.
Oh, wow.
Originally, she was, but hold on, this turns bad. She was seeing ladybugs all the time, and ladybugs usually are of luck and of uplifting energy and whatnot. And she started seeing them at first, and like one or two, and she really didn't pay much attention to them. She shunned them. She didn't know she was shunning them because she doesn't pay attention to animal medicine until me and her started talking. And before she knew it, she wasn't exactly in the best of relationships, and they were trying to help her to see her way out and to change her life in a positive way and bring luck to her. But she wasn't listening. And before she knew it, she was like, every time I come across anymore, she was like, I keep coming across like piles of dead ladybugs.
Oh, no.
Exactly. And I was like, dead ladybugs? And she's like, yeah. She was like, I keep finding them like in the back seat of the car. She was like, or in a pile over here by the woods. And she was like, even on the picnic table the other day, she was like, every time I turn around, I'm just coming across piles of them. And I was like, oh, honey. I was like, I cannot tell you what they mean right off the bat. I was like, because there's too many animals for me to keep up with. I was like, but any time an animal is sacrificing itself for you, period, there's a message that they are seriously trying to help you get, and you're not getting it. And when she went back and looked into it and she reevaluated everything, she realized how she really needed to make changes in her life and leave people behind. And after that, she went out and got a tattoo of a ladybug to pay respect to them for sacrificing themselves to him.
Right.
So I thought that was an awesome thing because she's not somebody who ever paid any attention in that way. But once I was like, Google it, look it up, see what it means to you, then interpret that into your life. What are they trying to tell you? What are they trying to help you? She found it so honorable, such an important message, that she went and got a tattoo of them. I thought that was awesome.
Absolutely. Very good. Yeah, no,
but
that
you have things like that all the time. You have, you know, like, yeah, I hear people all the time who are like, the bird flew into my window and sacrificed itself for me. And I'm like, dude, if you know what kind of bird that is, you need to look that up.
Right.
I mean, it's bad when they are sacrificing themselves. There's a difference there.
Yep. Yes, it is. There's a whole other thing. Exactly. You know, goodness. Yeah, no,
But that comes back to the whole wholeness. We're all one. That whole wholeness that we have to learn that we are in. Because that's not easy to understand either.
No, it's not. And, you know, and I understand people that are, like, newer to these kind of nature-based paths that, you know, it's going to take them a while to, you know, fit in and find their rhythm with the universe and, you know, allow that into their heart and soul and allow that to help direct. It's hard to give up control when all you've been taught from the cradle in most of the organized religions is that they don't want you to think for yourselves. They don't want you to you got to do it this way and that's the way you got to do it. So coming into a pagan path of any sort, regardless as to what it is an adjustment for people, for their mind, for their spirit.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and they've got to get used to opening themselves up, one thing at a time. I think animal magic is probably something in animal wisdom and that kind of thing that is a very good starting point, transition point or something is what I'm trying to say, because people love animals, most of them.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's an easy transformation because, and it's like I tell people all the time when I'm working with them, and I use animals for that reason. I mean, not just because I love animals, but because, for one, when we're dealing with spirit, most of us don't understand spirit, or several of us aren't open-minded or awake enough to see spirit, feel them, or sense them.
Right.
And so it's hard to connect with something you can't see, you can't understand. It's not from what you would consider this world. How can you communicate? It's like people will say to me with angels, they're like, I know angels are supposed to be, unconditionally loving and helpful, but I'm not an angel. I don't understand you. Right. And I'm like, you're right. But with animals have been on this planet forever. I'm like, you can go back and watch documentaries on all kinds of different animals and learn from them. And like, that is an easy way of understanding when spirit's trying to communicate with you. You don't have to really work too hard other than being aware.
Right. Yeah, very good point.
There's so much information out there.
Very good point. And yes, and I think that's why it's, if they can open themselves up and start paying attention to the natural world and the animals and that kind of thing, then it snowballs into them being able to have a better understanding of what we mean by when spirit speaks or when goddess speaks or when universe speaks, that kind of thing, because then they have a reference. They have a reference point so that, they can get it by starting off with something like, animal wisdom and that kind of thing. It's a great thing. And, when your show first came to PBN, I was so excited. And I listen to your shows. I listen to your shows, and I absolutely love them because, you always, okay, I think I know where you're headed, and then you take a turn that makes me go, huh. And I think that's the important thing, is because it makes you think. So I really, really want the people that listen to my show and see my stuff on Facebook to give your show a good shout. And trust me, folks, right now they're on YouTube. All the archive shows that we have done, not just Lady Stars and Fires, but Something Witchy, and then also Raven Wings. All those shows are on YouTube, and we do that because we understand that people are busy. Life is busy, and you can't always listen when it's on. So we want you to be able to get this information. So you definitely need to go to our YouTube channel and definitely subscribe. So when we upload new stuff, you'll have it. So you can go back and listen to it later. Or you missed part of it because the dog was barking. Well, you can go back and listen to it later. So that's.
Sometimes you just want it as a reminder. Something struck your head, or caught your attention, and you're like, wait a minute, I need that information now. So which episode was that? Let me go back and look that up. I love that we have that YouTube channel.
Yeah, because it gives you a reference thing, too. It's like, okay, something comes up in your life, and you're like, oh, wait, somebody was talking about that on such and such a show. Well, now you can go over there to such and such a show and find that episode and, get that information back. It's like a reference library for pagan things. It's a wonderful resource, so I hope you guys are utilizing it. And we really need you to comment. We need you to thumbs up. We need you to like our stuff on YouTube so more people can find us. So we're going to put you to work as our kind of road warriors for getting our PBN shows out there in front of people, because it's all about sharing and learning and what we can do to help you on your path. that kind of thing. And you can always hit us up on our pages and things. So it's about time for our next commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of Lady Stars and Fire's other websites, some of the other stuff that she does, and ways for you to find her pages on Facebook and where else, and probably some more crazy animal stuff. So stick around, folks. We'll be back after these messages.
Mystic Echoes is not your average metaphysical shop. Specializing in handmade pagan, occult, magical, spiritual, and mystical items that allow the individual to bring magical and spiritual practices into their day-to-day life. They have 4 different herbal product lines out there right now. They also have tinctures, incenses, powders, and herbal packets. They focus extensively on the use of all natural herbs and essential oils in their products to gain the best possible effect. All of the herbal-based products are made purely with essential oils and naturally dried herbs. There are no synthetic scents involved at all. Along with their herbal products, Mystic Echoes has a selection of leather goods, occult jewelry, and fabric products available. Each of these product lines allows them to provide something for everyone. Every item is handcrafted and created for you. Each item is blessed and consecrated before being sent out, so the individual only has to use the item to get the effect of the objects or the item crafted. Visit their website at mysticechoes.com, that's mystic-echos.com. Like them on their Facebook page at Mystic Echoes, or call them at 207-807-8729. Mystic Echoes, for all your metaphysical needs.
Okay, welcome back to Something Witchy with my special guest here tonight, Lady Stars and Fire. And we're having a wonderful time talking about animal stuff, talking about spirit, talking about everything pagan, animal, spirit related. So we're having a ball. I hope you're having fun.
Oh, I'm having a fabulous time.
It's kind of different to be able to talk to somebody while you're doing it, right?
Yes, it is, but I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. It gets addictive. I tell you, when I have to do solo shows anymore, I just kind of like, okay, what am I going to say now? Anyway. All right, so Lady Stars on Fire, you do so much more than just your show. Tell our listeners more about some of the other stuff you do. I know you've got a couple of different pages and that sort of thing. So let's find out more about Lady Stars on Fire.
Okay. Well, I have a business that I call Our Magical Sanctuary, and I have actually 2 pages on Facebook that is called Our Magical Sanctuary with Lady Stars and Fire. And then I also have another page that is called Getting Familiar with Lady Stars and Fire. So I have those 3 pages as well as my regular page, which is Michelle Espinosa, my real name, and then it says Lady Stars and Fire as well. But my company is, I named my company Our Magical Sanctuary because of my building that I have in my backyard, which is like my personal chapel. It's my place with the world. And when I created it, it just felt like, I felt like everything that I do has to do with spirit, and it wasn't fair to name it from me. It was meant to be named from everything, from my special place. So that's why I call the place Our Magical Sanctuary. Now, you can visit Our Magical Sanctuary by going to LadyStarsandFire.com, because that's my name. So I have everything. You can find anything about me under Google with LadyStarsandFire.com. I'm also a Reiki master, and I'm eventually going to start teaching Reiki. I haven't gotten to that point yet. My whole website all of my business is on the internet right now because I don't have a facility at this time. But I do the weekly free healing messages reading, and I put that on the website as well as on the YouTube page, as well as YouTube and as well as my pages on Facebook. You can also find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. But I do a weekly healing message every week, and I tell everyone when they check for that what I'm doing is I'm giving them cross information of what Spirit has given me, along with astrology information, and then I do a rune cast. So I check in with them, and I give that information out, because what I ask for is to help us move forward in the most positive way, but in healing ways, that we can make our life more healthy as we move forward in our life. So I do that each week, but then I also do, tarot readings. I do rune readings. I do also a thing that I call the Cosmos Itineraries, where each and every day I will walk you through what the astrology is, along with what Spirit is giving me to help you through your life. Not necessarily coaching and not necessarily planning, but to know what kind of energies are about, so that as this happens within your life, it can help you create your life in the most healthy way as you plan your life. Then I also do Reiki sessions, distance, because like I said, I don't have a facility at this moment. And I also have handcrafted items that I make. So I do a little bit of everything, and I'm still studying to be a shaman, and then I'm thinking of going into crystal certification as well. So I want to cover as much as I can so that I can bring as much help as I can to everybody. But just like everybody else, I'm learning too.
And that's wonderful, and I'm going to live vicariously through you, because all those things I love too. So that's great. And I have seen your weekly messages, and those are wonderful. I admire that people can actually do those. I do good just to keep myself going in a forward direction most weeks.
Well, you know what, though? That's all of us. I mean, because I have to remind people all the time, because they'll come to me with different things because they've seen those healing messages, and I'm like, you got to remember, honey, I'm just trying to find my way too. I'm just passing on what was given to me, because I feel that is being how you give back, how you be of service. I'm like, I'm just giving the information that's given to me, but I'm the type of person I have to speak out. I don't know if it's, all I can assume is it's part of my past. If I don't speak out, it drives me absolutely batty. I mean, it's like I become irritated with myself. So I have to speak out and be public. It's just part of who and what it is in my past. I can't be quiet.
Oh my goodness. It's hard, and you do. Sometimes that you get that stuff that you have to. You have no idea why you're sharing it. You know, but you just know that you have to. I mean, there's been a time or two that even I, on Facebook, I just had to start this conversation that I have no clue who it's for. I have no, I don't care. But if I don't write this, somebody is going to break my fingers. So, and so I will put stuff up that, it has nothing to do with me or have to do with anything like that. But you just have to. So I totally get that when you get messages. It's, and sometimes it's even as often as, that didn't come out right, not as often as it happens, but the fact that I understand when it happens to me, sometimes it still catches you off guard, and you're like, where the heck did that come from? And you've got to share it. And
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, that was just like this week when I did the healing messages. I had to start off it because something, and I was laughing when I was saying it on the healing messages, because I was like, I have no idea why, but I have to start off talking about cookie dough. I was like, I don't know if this is supposed to be proof for someone, or if it means sweetness. I have no idea, but I'm being told cookie dough, or cookies, or the aroma, or flavor, or something. I just know I cannot go any further unless I say cookies.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you really don't have a clue. But sometimes it's also of service, stuff that you're putting out there that helps people to understand things they can do, or different healing ways and so forth. So, I mean, it's always usually meant to be a positive thing, especially when we don't know why we have to do it.
Well, you know what? I really think sometimes those are just trigger words to get somebody's attention. It's like somebody may be half listening because we all scroll through and we turn things on and we're half listening to it. So when it's something like that, I imagine that's a trigger or a hook. Maybe call it because somebody that's going to be blah 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 and they're doing this and doing that, and then they hear you say cookie dough, they're going to be like, wait, what? Did she just say what I think she said? And then they'll maybe pay attention to whatever's coming after. I really think sometimes those are just the hooks they're throwing out. That going, oh no, this person needs to hear that.
Sense.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I've always done it because, like when I read, okay, I'm going to say I read tarot, but I do not read tarot like normal people read tarot because this card means that and that card. No, I do I do intuitive readings. I don't care what whoever made the card decides it means. It means exactly what I get told when I view it in a reading. No more, no less.
I completely understand.
And and sometimes it's like that thing, that cookie dough thing. I like oracle cards. I got a set. Oh my gosh, I got a set, and I'm gonna share them at some point on one of my shows at Caldera Fest. One of the musicians, Rowena of the Glen, okay, made these phenomenal oracle cards that are so open to interpretation that when she spread them out on the table, my brain was going zing, 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 because they all made sense. They all spoke to me. It wasn't like this abstract whatever that I have no idea because you have those days when you're like not really in that, you haven't made that connection yet, and trying to, and I can't do it that way. But these cards of hers, I think they're called the Oracle of the Seer. And at some point I will have Rowena on one of my shows and talk to her about this stuff. She's phenomenal. Her music's insane. And I know I'm going off on the Caldera tangent again, but I can't help it. That festival is so much more than music. To be a music fest billing, music fest,
Mm-hmm.
okay? It wasn't. It was probably one of the most spiritual experiences of my entire life. Because of the energy, because of the people. And
That's because
talk
of
about
soul,
paying
honey.
talk about paying attention to nature. Talk about paying attention to signs.
Mm-hmm.
I saw very few critters while I was there, but the few I did.
Yeah, there was a lot of people.
Yeah, no, but I know. But you figure you're in the middle of the farm in northwest Georgia and whatever. But I mean, there was just enough critters that when I saw them, I would just sit there and smile. We have, because there were messages coming to me from them as well. Like, okay, there was a spider in my tent.
All right.
Normally that would be me getting the blowtorch and the lighter and just no more tent. Okay, but at that point I was like still trying to make connections with a couple of the musicians I hadn't talked to, and when I moved something in my tent, I was sitting there and I saw that spider and it stood there. I swear, it stood there and looked at me, and then it ran into the corner. And I'm like, as long as you stay over there, because if I see you when I'm trying to sleep, I'm going to kill you and not mean to. Panic mode will set in, so you just have to stay out of my way. But yeah, I do. I talk to them. I talk to them all.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm the same way, so I can't.
Yeah.
I laugh because I do it.
I have some that corners of the house and stuff. I'm like, dude, you're good there. Just don't move during the daytime. At night, you got free rent, whatever, that kind of thing. But anyway, this spider was there to tell me to have patience. That was his message. When he stood there and looked at me, instead of like when I moved my boot, I had my boot in my hand. Okay? I could have just went flat, and I didn't. I put the boot down, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and then he, kind of scurried over to the corner. And I realized at that moment that was a sign for me that I needed to be patient. I needed to take a breath and have patience, because I was making myself cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs about trying to track down these artists.
Right.
And so I finally managed to say, okay, breathe, take a breath, whatever. So I did that. And then later on in the day, um, there it was a skink. Okay, this skink. Okay, Florida, we've got skinks. Okay, they're not very big. This was a honking skink, and he was not a happy camper because it was so hot. He was trying to find shade, but a couple of people that were around in the same area were petrified of this poor little skink. I'm like, wait a minute, you like dragons, but you freak out about a lizard? Somehow that doesn't make sense to me because they are dragons. This is dragon spirit and this little lizard. And they're like, but I'm like, I don't care. And he was probably a good 6 to 8 inches long. I mean, with his tail. He was, a good 4 inches body mass, about 2. So he was a good size. He wasn't something that I would normally see. And of course, they're pretty, even though I know that they're poisonous, but they're not like, he wasn't looking to bite me. He was like, bitch, I just need some shade. I'm hot. I'm dying.
Move over.
Yeah, so I moved something to where he could hide under and nobody could see it. I poured a little water. I had water. I poured a little water on the grass down about where he was, and I just let him sit there and chill until he decided to move on. He just needed a minute. He was like, man, I don't necessarily know what his energy was. I think that was more like a be nice to all living creatures test kind of thing. I think it was because, and I felt so bad for the little guy because it was 105 in the shade. Like, you poor little thing. And why, I still don't understand how people freak out about lizards. They'll have dragon tattoos. They got dragons all over their house. They see a bloody, lizard and, they run screaming. And it makes me laugh because they're just baby dragons.
Well, see, I get that and I don't get that. And the reason I can say that is I'm such an animal lover, but when I come across an injured animal, I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, I don't know what to do to help you. And like everybody else knows how automatically to be like, Shell, this is what you need to do. And then from there, when somebody is like, taps me on the shoulder and is like, hello, brain, start working, then I can maybe help an injured animal. But automatically I'm just like, duh.
And that's hard.
Come out at first.
And that's hard because there are so many, depending on the kind of animal, there's so many regulations. You can't do this, you can't do that. It's molesting them, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes, you have to be careful because, an animal in pain, especially a wild animal that's injured, can hurt you without, their spirit maybe not mean to, but they're in pain and they're going to lash out. So,
they're just like us. They're in panic mode.
Yeah, and they are. Basically, what? All I can do for most injured animals, if they're not too, if I think they're going to be okay, maybe they're stunned. I send a little Reiki. I send Reiki. And I or I will, and if there's one that is in death throes and like I see a squirrel that's gotten hit and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do for that squirrel, I just kind of send I send it a little like a crossover spell, prayer, whatever, and that's all I can do. But I have honored its spirit.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but physically.
That's also, no, exactly. But that's also what I'm saying is where how some of these people, like you said, I love dragons, but then when they come across a little lizard animal,
Okay, gotcha.
It's just they don't get it. It's I love the idea, but when it actually comes into interaction, what?
Yeah, I get that.
turn into that sometimes. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, and there are times, I'm sure. There are times. I know I was at dinner last night with my mom and stuff, and he lives in North Carolina a little bit. So they've got cougar, and they got, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, here, kitty. And they're like, no. And I'm like, but they're like, no, it's not, no. So I've been warned that I better not be, they said by the time you see one, it's too late.
Right.
And I'm like, but, because I have this like crazy thing that I could just go up and talk to this cat. I should know better, but I'm like the idiot that would go try. But anyway.
Oh,
all right.
I know exactly what you're saying now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at time, my dear. I have had a wonderful time with you tonight. We will have to get you back on for another show at some point because this was a whole lot of fun. And
I had a great time.
I'm so glad. I want to encourage you guys. Listen, please. Thursday nights. Is yours at 7 or 8? I can't remember.
It's at 8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock. Thursdays at 8 o'clock on PBN Radio for Getting Familiar with Lady Stars and Fire. I promise you, you will find things that are meant for you in her show. There's, like I said, there's always that. It's like an Easter egg. You know, you really think it's going somewhere, and she'll come out with something that you go, oh my gosh, wow. You know, so you've got to give her show a listen and give her a like and welcome her to the PBN family. So once again, good night from Onyx Moon and
Lady Stars and Fire. Good night.
have a blessed night. Bye.